Hey, what's going on out there, YouTubers? It is 0 Hour, episode 18. I'm your host, Tim Loy, in the house with my cohorts, Justin Watson, Jeff Hobbs, and we are fresh off the heels of Aries 3. It's in the books. Went down this past Friday night for the world famous Cotton Eye Joe. That means it's recap and reactions episode here tonight. We're going to go over all the results, kind of weigh in on how we thought everything went, and kind of look forward to some of the other fights that may emerge from that. And as well, it's our first week now in 2022. We're going to be starting our picks panel over again, new monthly standings. And of course, we'll be using the odds brought to you by Action 24/7. They're our sponsor out there. Use promo code Aries. They're going to match your deposit up to $800. You can bet on the UFC. You can bet on the Aries fights, all that good stuff. Check them out at action247.com. Justin, how's it going, my man? You're back in the judge's seat, a little under the weather this past show, and now maybe pass it on to me. I don't know. I'm COVID positive, but there was probably a lot of COVID positives going on at the Joe. How you feeling, man?
Yeah, man, not too bad. It hasn't hit me too hard. It was fun to be back in there and getting to watch some fights. And yeah, it was a packed house, man. There was if anybody had it, they were all over each other. So I'm sure it spread well.
Jeff, fresh off the heels of his own COVID, he may have been patient zero. Who knows? We made it happen, though, man. We're going to go over the card here, but down to 9 fights at bell time. It was feeling a little squirrely, but still pulled off a really, really fun show.
Yeah, I definitely was not the cause of the of any positive COVIDs. I was fresh off the heels of coming off my second round of it, so had it twice, vaccinated, boosted. In fact, I was probably the only safe one in that petri dish Friday night. That's just because I'm full of COVID. But man, yeah. So 9 fights, and definitely trust us, guys listening. Not by design. You know, we were at 14 and 15. And just if it could happen, it did, between Omicron and then just your basic I don't know, cold feet or just fucking not about that life. We had those, and then the snow and the weather I think maybe had some effect on it. But they were dropping like flies. We were stressed the hell out. Not just for the show, but for the fans. Wanting to make sure that we gave them their money's worth and made their night. But man, Tim, does it not always happen? The ones you're the most worried about, you're looking at it going, oh my God, we just lost another one on fight day. We're down to 9. This is horrible. It turns out to be some of the best shows that we've had.
Yeah.
Those 9 delivered. The crowd delivered. It was so much fun, man. And I said it so many times the other night, sitting cage side is, these are always the ones that end up, we have the funnest time, and just glad it worked out for us once again. Knock on wood.
Let's get into it, y'all. We got only 9 fights to recap here. Originally, we previewed 10 last week. Before we do, though, we need you to do one thing, and that's smash that like button and the subscribe notification bell, so that way when we upload these fights right here on the 0 Hour here in a couple weeks, you can get notified, and you can watch all of them right here, as well as get notified when we come up with new episodes each and every week. We appreciate it. Also, give us a follow and like on our Facebook pages and social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. We appreciate you helping us grow. We'll kind of break this down in segments here. We'll do the kickboxing as a group here, and then we'll do the MMA and then the pro MMA. So, of course, first fight of the night is to be Kobe Ford taking on Matt Shields. Matt Shields shows up mixed weight. Kobe Ford has all kinds of excuses the day before. Finally, says that he will be coming in on fight day. No show, all the same. No fuck yous, no anything, just radio silence, which that's like the worst, man. It's like, at least come up with an excuse, at least give me something. Don't just straight up no show after we've, get your opponents come here 4 hours from Kentucky, paid hotel rooms for both guys. Just about the worst slap in the face you can give us. And I can promise this face won't be around to get slapped anymore. Second fight of the night, it was a late ad, and it was pretty solid little scrap. We had TJ Bean from Team NKI making his debut. It was great to have North Knox Ishinru back in the house locally, fighting at the Joe. He defeated Julian Mendoza, also making his debut out of Brothers MMA in Greenville, South Carolina. That was a unanimous decision. Our announcer didn't announce the actual scores, but I believe it to be 29-26 on all three scorecards. Now, my man Mendoza, he's been hitting me up already. He was saying he got robbed on that one. And I went back and watched it, and I don't see it. I think, there was a point deduction from Bean in the third round, which would have maybe evened up one round. But then there was a standing 8 count for Mendoza in the first, which would wipe that out. I had Bean really kind of edging all 3 rounds. DeAndre Hill out of the UFC gym in Murfreesboro also made his debut in a 145-pound tie fight. Gets a unanimous decision win over Carson Heidel out of Resolute Martial Arts in Oak Ridge. Pretty close fight. I think Hill kind of edged out all the rounds, but I thought Heidel was pretty game. He was early. It seemed like he was a little tentative. Once he started to open up a little bit, he kind of made his way back into the fight. I think we'll be looking to see Heidel again pretty soon. Hill, spoke like he'd like to fight next time in Nashville. That may be a while. Rounding out the Muay Thai portion of the card, it was the young gun, as he's been christened by Jeff Hobbs, Harrison Raymond, coming in at 1-0 from Shield Systems in Knoxville, moves to 2-0 with a third-round knockout over Kerry Reed out of Spencer Fisher's Glory MMA over in Sylvia, North Carolina. 18 seconds into the third round, that was a very back-and-forth fight. And we'll go around the horn here. What stood out to you guys about this Muay Thai section of the card? Anybody surprise you here? Anybody, that you kind of see some potential in? Harrison Raymond on 2-0. Kind of making his way up the ranks, and the other 2 winners moved to 1-0. Justin, you were judging these. Your judging was called into question on Julian Mendoza and DJ Bean, not by me. I actually agree with you.
Right.
Your take on these Thai fights?
Yeah, man. All these guys were solid. For amateur Thai fights. As debuts, most of them as debuts, the first 4 at least, and. Julian Mendoza put up a tough fight, man. He put up a good count for himself, but TJ Beam was just a little bit sharper, a little bit quicker to the step, landed the better shots, feeling all 3 rounds. DeAndre Hill, kind of the same thing, just a step ahead. Carson Heidel, though, nothing to hang his head on. It was a tough debut, and both guys, put up a good account of themselves. And then Kerry Reed and Harrison Raymond was a hell of a fight, man. Back and forth, both guys were landing shots. Ultimately, Harrison gets the win, but Kerry Reed was, he was in there for the whole thing, ready to scrap.
Let me ask you this. And as a judge, does this make a difference? Because when we were sitting over there just watching that Mendoza and Bean fight, we saw somebody else kind of fight like this. I want to say Christian Lee. Whenever they would, retreat or try to angle away, they would kind of like turn and kind of like turn their back a little bit, and it to me it kind of gives the impression of timidity. I don't think it was timidity. It's just kind of the way that they angle it off and move. But as a judge, does that skew things for you?
It all depends on the situation. Sometimes you get in a corner and that's the only way to get out, and I don't look at it necessarily as timidity as more of just, defense. You have to get out of that position in order to get into an advantageous position. But we've seen it where that's definitely, what it is when guys are turning and running. I didn't really think it in this fight. I thought it was more him just trying to, get out and get back to a position where he could throw some strikes. But yeah, it definitely can be just depending on the situation.
Jeff Hobbs, your take?
3 really good, kickboxing matches. Sometimes you just don't know what you're getting with a lot of debuts, a lot of faces and gems we haven't seen, before or in a long time. So, statistics would tell you that maybe there would be, a snoozer in between there, or maybe something. But these were 3 really closely contested matches. So, Bean and Mendoza was a heck of a way to start the card again. Very competitive. Enjoyed working as small a time as it was with Beans himself and his camp and his ticket buyers, were really involved. So it'll be great to see him again. But really close matchup. It was a great way to start the show. I do, will correct you a little bit. Wasn't the only, because Heidel came looking for me after the match and thought I was a judge and wanted to ask me why I judged it that way. I was like, hey, but I just ring announce. I'm not I'm not the judge. I said, but I'm sure one of these guys after the show, but he very much wanted to know what he could have done that he didn't, or what was the reasoning behind. But again, it was so close. And then, even though the third fight that we talked about didn't go the distance, it might as well had, going in the war that it was and going into the third round. Both men really getting some really good clean shots. But I think Harrison just had more combinations, more really nice, 2 and 3 punch combinations that really looked good to everyone watching. And obviously they were effective because, the accumulation of them ended up, getting him a stoppage in the third round. So, but man, such highly contested bouts. There's no one in these 6 fighters that we wouldn't probably be chomping at the bit to have come back and do it again and run it again. Winner or loser, there's so many ways we could go with these 6 guys on either end, and put them in some future competitive matches.
And with Harrison Raymond now 2-0, a couple more wins, he's probably going to have his eyeballs set on that Tyler Jones and Taylor Roderick fight coming up for the strap. He would be a great challenge for either one of those gentlemen, I think.
Yeah.
Moving on to the amateur MMA portion of the card, we started things off with Adam Silvey taking on Caleb Holt. Adam Silvey comes in at 2-0 out of the Wolves Den of Martial Arts in Madisonville, Tennessee. Takes on the late replacement Caleb Holt. Caleb Holt is, he don't turn down nothing but his collar. He's there for anything we need, literally. So props to him. Steps in at 1-3 independently from Knoxville. Succumbs to the key lock 47 seconds into the first round. Coming up weight class, though, props to Caleb for stepping in there. Props to Adam Silvey for rolling with the punches as we had to make changes, getting in and getting out. And, he told us that this was going to be his last fight. I think he still has an itch for maybe one more. So I think we may see Adam back in March. Up next, my opinion, this is probably one of our best amateur fights of the night. Jacob Adams making his debut out of Josh Cates' Team Chaos in Knoxville, Tennessee, making their triumphant return to Knoxville MMA in a middleweight affair. Takes out Cole Tucker, who was coming in at 1-0 independently out of Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, out in Middle Tennessee. Gets a head and arm triangle with 1 second to go in the second round. Now, Cole Tucker, to his credit, came out and landed a head kick just to open the fight that knocked Adams down. Definitely commanded his respect. Had a real nice showing for himself. Unfortunately, unable to keep it off the ground. Adams had several takedowns that Tucker was able to get up from, but just the accumulation of that with 1 second to go in the second round gets the tap. Tucker had a nice accounting for himself. Adams certainly going to be one to watch in that 185 division on the come up. Up next, we had another late replacement fight. Dusty Little, also out of Team NKI in Knoxville, comes in at 6-5 to take on the debuting Seth Gregory out of Team Black Dragon in Cleveland, Tennessee. Gets a second round submission via armless triangle. He made sure that we noted it was an armless triangle. 1 minute, 40 seconds into the second round. Gregory had his moments, man. Gregory, you could see, had some wrestling, had some decent ground skills that I was a little surprised by, to tell you the truth. Put up a nice accounting for himself. The experience of Dusty Little too much, though. He moves to 7-5. Already got his sights set on the top of the division, he said. We got some real fun fights we can make with Dusty Little. And honestly, nice debut for Seth Gregory. I think he'll give guys some problems still. Rounding out the amateur portion of the card, Joseph Ishma makes his MMA debut out of Shield Systems here in Knoxville, defeats the always tough veteran Dustin Garrett with a triangle with an arm in the first round. 1 minute, 36 seconds in, 145-pound MMA division. Pretty fun fight while it lasted. A lot of scrambles. Both guys had their moments. Both guys had good dominant positions at both times. But Ishma shows off the grappling skills to beat the grappler, move 1-0. Jeff, I'll let you lead off on this one.
A short amateur, card here, but again, some really good standouts. Adam Silvey and Caleb. Again, it was going to be another fight that we were going to lose, unfortunately, with some last minute dropouts. But Caleb is a trooper, and he is always there, and he definitely is a anytime, anywhere, any weight, really, as long as it's within reason. He's got about a 2.5 weight class window that he's okay with competing in. But it was good to see the old man Sylvie get a win. Always brings a great crowd and has a lot of support. Like you said, well, I don't want to pass. I'm sorry, I don't want to pass up Jacob Adams. Definitely a trooper, Jacob Adams, man. Like you said, that first head kick and dropped him was like, holy shit, this isn't, going the way I thought. But man, he stayed the course and stayed to the game plan and grinded that out. I know I've been looking down a lot, and it's only because I've been looking back. I had somebody reach out to me over the last 2 days wanting Jacob Adams' video of his fight. And it's not the opponent he's got coming up. So I was like, I'm trying to figure out why someone's wanting Jacob Adams' video. But I thought, hey, 30 days, it'll be on. Or $19.99, you can go ahead and go to Spectation Sports and get that video early. So I don't know if Jacob Adams got some other stuff floating around out there where he's working on, but somebody already wants Jacob Adams' video to watch him or to scout him. But he looked really good. Really impressed with the kid, and I think he's got a really strong future. Like you were saying before, Dusty Little, it was sweet. This was definitely the battle of walkout songs.
Yes.
Seth Gregory coming out to old Wham, not just George Michael, but Wham.
Careless Whisper.
Yes, Careless Whisper, slow jams, and you think it can't get any better, and he wins hands down, walk out of the night. And then Dusty Little comes out to the Golden Girls theme song. So, I mean, right there, they set the tone, and it had the crowd a little confused, but definitely digging the vibe. And Dusty Little, after the win, with a heartfelt post-fight interview dedicated to Miss Betty White. So it was definitely strange, man. But, man, Dusty just immediately just inserted him into a lot of possibilities. Tim and myself actually had a phone conversation today about this bantamweight division again. We talked about it one of the previous shows on how stacked it is and how many different combinations. And now all of a sudden, bam, got another name we can throw right in there with a big record at 7-5. So again, so many opportunities. He's going to find himself, right in the mix immediately. We don't know which way that's going to go. There's so many intriguing matchups, man, that we can do that, but he is going to fit nicely in any direction that we go. And to me, the big story of the whole evening, or this part of the card, was Joseph Ishma, the complete unknown. This was the glaring question of the night. I feel, for me at least, was, will Joseph Ishma's transition to MMA? How will it go? Is this guy just a striker? Is he just a stand-up guy? Because that's all we've seen. But he answered, I think, every question. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, Justin. He went for the takedown. Mm-hmm. Like, he initiated the grappling. And I'll never forget one transition where Dustin finally got, swept him and got top control. And you think, oh, shit, okay, this is where it's fixing to get hairy. And Ishma had one of the most beautiful, I don't want to say he completely just muscled it, because he doesn't look like a very strong, but just a beautiful sweep to reverse it again. And that ended up being the final reversal when he ended it, after that reversal. So, man, he had a lot of people really shocked, surprised, pleasantly surprised. But this kid, we say it time and time again, this gym does not put people out, unless they're ready. And there was a method to the madness. They had him in as a striker. They must have known he was pretty solid on the ground, and maybe the striking was what they wanted him to work on, because they knew he had some ground game, just hiding it from us. But now he looks like, a really, at his level, a very well-rounded young man. So, again, possibilities are endless right now with this.
Lots of 145s down there for him to ply his trade against. There's a lot of good fights down there too. Savon Canto's a guy that kind of comes to mind. There's several good ones like that. Tristan Kelly. Those could be really good. Justin, no scorecards needed in this segment. What stood out to you?
No, man. First off, Caleb Holt. Like you guys said, shout out, man. We'll see him back in a couple weeks, about 40 pounds lighter. And Adam Sylvie, I look forward to seeing Adam Sylvie come back. He's always fun, always a class act. Seems to be a great person to work with, and um, that Cole Tucker head kick, man, right out of the gate, that was it, by the beginning of that fight, you would have never imagined what was going to come. Jacob Adams is a nasty fellow, though. Being able to withstand that and come back. I was also super impressed with Seth Gregory. Dusty Little, like you guys said, 6-5, 7-5 now, tons of experience. Seth Gregory making his debut. That's not, that's tough to step up to. And Seth was game for all the exchanges on the ground. But obviously Dusty's, just a little bit more experienced, and it showed in there. And then Joseph Ishma, man, like you said, that was super impressive. We know he can stand, and we know he can strike, and now we know he's going to be a trouble on the ground too. I mean, winning scrambles like that against Dustin Garrett, that's his game. And Ishma was able to run that. So that was a big win for Ishma. I think you see some big things for him next.
All right, moving on to the pro card, which ended up being only 2 fights here, with the COVID taking out Andrew Havener. We had leading off Pat Crumpton, 3-1 out of National MMA, improves to 4-1 with the first round submission by rear naked choke over Dreon Martin. Thought Dreon, he was on the defensive the whole time, but found himself in some pretty rough spots. Accounted pretty well for himself in the clinch, and just kind of surviving for the first 4 minutes or so. But eventually, Pat was able to kind of drown him, if you will, with that pressure, that constant blanket on him, and succumbs to the rear naked choke. Pat Crumpton now 4-1, and in our main event, man, a lot of hype on this one, guys. A lot of people there to see this one. Trevor Peek versus David Robbins for our first ever 170 title. And we said before this, there's a couple different ways this can go, including one of them being Trevor Peek just trucking David Robbins. And that's what happened, guys. It was he never gave David a chance to get going, to get any sort of rhythm, to really kind of find a range, and really just overwhelms him with a beautiful 2-piece left hook to the body, followed by a big right hand. Both landed solid, knocks David down. Ground and pound follows it up, and before you know it, it's over. David with a pretty gnarly broken nose, it looked like, after that one. And Trevor Peek, man, really just put his stamp on the division, moves to 4-0 now, and already some opportunities starting to knock for him. 2-fight pro card, didn't get all 3 pro fights in, but these 2 were definitely a lot of fun. Justin, you've been in there with Pat yourself, and of course, both guys in the main event. What was your take on these pros?
Yeah, man, Pat looked good. I think he went out there and did what he was supposed to do with Dre on. Pat, he is grapple heavy, but I would like to see him in there just standing and throwing, because they got those bombs every time he's throwing. He's doing it to get in close, but he's throwing big shots. And the main event, like you said, man, it's wild that Trevor, like you said, he's making a stamp in the division, but I feel like Trevor could probably be at 55 pretty easily. He looked like he was, quite a bit smaller than David in there, and that's even scarier to think that this is in a division up from where he probably naturally should be fighting at. But yeah, scary dude, man. He just, when he touches you, he's all violence, and he's not going to stop until he gets the finish. So that was a big one, crazy fight.
Jeff Hobbs, what your take on this craziness, man? I think even with if you're on Team Peak and you were kind of expecting him to win, I don't know if anybody would have called it in that short of time.
I'm sure some of them would.
Yeah, true.
Just because the kids' fan base believes in him so much.
No doubt.
As well they should, but
they're a great group.
Yes, they are. It was awesome having them. So I'm sure some of them really did call it because they firmly believe, no matter who it is on the other side of them, that's how it's going to end.
Sounds like they went over there and put their money on it.
Yeah, and according to Action 24/7, they weren't just talking shit either. They came over and put their money on it as well. In fact, our representative from Action 24/7 said literally every bet that he took, on the evening was for Trevor Peek. So they put their money where their mouth is, literally. Peak and Drayon, it went how I thought it was going to go. It was interesting and nice to hear, though, after the fight on both ends, that both fighters were surprised by something that their opponent had to offer. Drayon saying he really just didn't think that Pat was going to be physically as strong as he was. Like he said, I could feel his strength, and I didn't expect it. And Crumpton admitting that he just didn't think that Drayon was going to be as good as he was as far as defensively and being able to kind of withstand and hold them off. And it made comment a little bit of Drayon's strength too, to be able to hold some things off and as well. So it was nice to hear both of them walked out of there with a little more respect and for the other guy, and that they did offer something that surprised them. It's always nice to hear. But man, the main event, it's weird to say that a 32-second fight delivered, but just based on the atmosphere and the vibe in that room, and how many people, no matter which side the winner came out of, how many people from each side were there to watch their guy win, pay those ticket prices, and came out in full force. 32 seconds, 5 seconds, they didn't care what the outcome was going to be. They were satisfied with that outcome. Each fan base was so passionate about wanting to see their guy win. The fact that, they waited all night for 32 seconds did not bother them one single bit. We talked about the lead up to that fight and weigh-in day and things like that, and not making any excuses or taking away from anybody. But there was something about, David's demeanor that kind of felt off. And not really sure why. It'd be stupid for me to speculate why, but something felt off. He came in heavy, had to continue to try to cut weight and spend the entire time cutting weight, and still ended up missing. Maybe that was it. Maybe he miscalculated his weight cut and just mentally couldn't get himself there. And Trevor Peak is not somebody that you can not be all there for. That being said, I don't think, no matter how David came into this fight, even if he was all there, I think there was just something preordained about this bout. You feel it when you meet with Trevor, when you talk with Trevor, when he showed up to weigh-ins, his demeanor, his vibe that he was putting out, he strikes you as a man who's not going to be denied. And that's exactly what he showed. As soon as the fight started, Tim, I think you made a comment to me, is that, right off the rip, David was letting Trevor set the tone and set the pace. He was coming forward, and he wasn't throwing anything back to keep him off of him. Everything was defensive from the get-go. And, for those of you who think Trevor is not skilled, even as short a fight as it was, look at how he set things up with low kicks, inside kicks, getting his distance, and that left hook to the body to set up that right. You're a fool if you think the kid doesn't have some skill, because he does. That shit just, the power came after the setup, and that setup does, it doesn't just come by chance. We know that there, like you said, there's the kid's been getting emails, text messages, Facebook messages, whether it be fight promotions. I know for a fact, because we've talked to him, top tier management, looking for him and feeling like they can give him some big opportunities this year if he's interested. So you can't be happier for the guy just because, things work out. Things worked out for him, and it looks like the sky's the limit this year if he wants it, if he wants to grab a hold of it. Love both of these guys to death. Didn't really know Trevor as much as I did David. Love David to death. Have grown to love Trevor to death. Sometimes things just feel like they happen the way they should. And I told Trevor after the fight, sometimes the person who was supposed to win just does. And you did. Now, I'm not saying that he was supposed to or should have, but, I think Trevor's a very religious guy, and, carries, I think, his faith with him everywhere he goes. And you can look at it that way. Maybe this was just supposed to happen. Maybe it was God's will, and it happened the way that it was supposed to.
Very, very nice win for Trevor. Kind of a signature win at this point. Very interested to see where he goes next. Interested to see what David Robbins does next. And I'll concur with you. The energy that he had in Chattanooga was not matched this time. I think that's safe to say. In Chattanooga, you could tell that he was just very excited to be there, excited to do this thing, was very positive. And I just felt like his energy was very low this time. And you cannot go in there with a guy that has the motor and the power and the aggression of a Trevor Peak and not return that. If you can't get his respect early, then he's going to unload on you. And that's what we saw happen. The footwork of David, I kind of thought would be a bit of an equalizer there, but in this case, he's kind of backed up straight against the cage, and when you do that against a guy with that kind of power and that kind of aggression, there's nowhere to go. You can't just take shots like that and expect to stay in the fight. So big props to Trevor Peak, our new 170 champion, and hopefully he's on to bigger and better things before long. Let's wrap this up with some superlatives, guys. Who would you say was your biggest, avoiding the low-hanging fruit? I think we can all agree that Trevor Peak was the biggest winner of the night. There's no doubt. Let's just give some props other places. Who's besides the main event, biggest winner on the night? And who was the most impressive to you in their loss? Justin, I'll let you go first.
Biggest winner, I think I'm going to have to go with Joseph Ishma, making his debut against a guy with 8 fights. And like I said, we've seen Ishma kickboxing a few times, but to make your MMA debut against such a veteran and the guy who's been in there with the who's who in the division already, and then to get him out of there that quickly and in his area, I think was the most impressive victory for me. And in defeat, probably Seth Gregory, man, another guy coming in there making his debut against a guy with tons and tons of experience, and got finished in the second round, but he gave it hell. And I'd like to see him back. I think that, he's a guy who will probably end up fighting maybe at 25. And, that division's wide open. So those two get my picks.
Jeff.
And I hate that I have to pick just one. Pushing the main event aside, I want to jump on Justin's, Ishma, but I really feel like it's a Ishma Raymond combo pack. It's a Shield Systems, combo pack. I think they're so young and, have just such great futures ahead of them, but I'm not going to pick them. I'm really not. I think it's easy and I want to, but I think they know it. Dusty Little for me. I think just the fact that, we haven't seen that gym compete in the Knoxville area, in so long. And for them to kind of just come back to the Knoxville MMA scene as far as competing and kind of just come out of nowhere, so to speak, and get that win and just catapult himself into a hot division right now. I think, could come out the biggest winner. And I will concur with Justin, though, out of that same match, Seth Gregory, was so impressive. And I don't think he'll mind because he didn't mind telling me, he's like, I just train out of my garage, with my, my buddies from this Black Dragon crew. But it's like, we train out of a garage, and he showed so much potential and skill for someone who, just trains out of their garage, admittedly. Man, I think if he really sticks with it, he showed a lot. And I think, I think he could do something if he really puts his mind to it. And if he's watching, Seth Gregory, I'm the one that bought you dinner at Waffle House when they didn't bring your bill and you wondered who paid for your dinner. It was this guy. I did. You may not have seen me, but I saw you come in, and that was me that picked up your tab because you deserved it, my man. So those are mine. Same fight. Dusty Little, Seth Gregory.
Hey, I like both of those. Hard for me to disagree, honestly. So I guess I'll have to jump on a little bit of both. I really like Dusty Little as well. Like you mentioned, his team hasn't been on the local circuit for a while, so he was able to kind of have that little coming out party against a guy that allowed him to show some of his strong suits, because as the fact that Seth Gregory performed so well actually put Dusty Little in positions to kind of show where he's going to be very dangerous. And like you mentioned, he's already inserted himself right into that title picture with that win. He's a fairly marketable guy. He's definitely a different one. He's not your typical fighter. A dry sense of humor, and they call him Featherfoot. He had the jacket that said Featherfoot on the back, so that was pretty cool. And man, I guess we're all just going to jump on board this guy and give it to Seth Gregory. I thought he performed very well. He definitely outperformed what I expected from him, and put Dusty Little in some rough spots, really. the experience was honestly the difference here. Just having that many cage experiences allowed Dusty to kind of weather those bad spots and come out the other side. Congrats to everyone involved that actually showed up and honored their commitments to fight. Everybody put on a real nice showing. And this is one of those cards where, I guess with the exception of maybe one or two, all your losers had pretty good had like some good moments. Like almost every loser besides one or two really kind of had at one point, one could say was winning the fight for a moment, so very, very, very competitive, very fun fights. Let's move on to our final segment, guys. And we are back with UFC. It is UFC Vegas number 46. We start anew on our picks. To recap here, we'll go monthly. So this month we'll have 3 events before we get the final tally on our scores. 1 unit plays for each person with a max of 2 legs on any parlays taken. Greg Hopkins fails to send his picks in. So as such, he is -1 unit to start the week as he does not submit his picks. And we'll see if he gets some crazy parlays in next week to try to steady the ship. Torres Finney does get his picks in, although he will be penalized 20% to all of us here on the panel should he win. Torres goes with a parlay of Caitlin Chukagian along with Brandon Royval. Pretty nice parlay. I like it, actually. When you put them together, you get plus 147. So Torres is in to win 1.47 units, risking 1 unit there. Justin, let's go to you for yours.
Yeah, so I'm going to take Chase Sherman over Jake Collier at even money. Jake Collier's a super blown up middleweight who has gone back and forth in his last 6 or 7 fights probably. Chase Sherman's coming off of a couple of losses. One of them to Parker Porter, which is not that great, but the other's to Andrei Arlovski, who's not a slub. And I just think Chase Sherman's just the better all-around athlete, natural heavyweight, and I think he's going to be able to get it done on this one.
Okay, so that is an even money play. Plus 100 on Chase Sherman gets back 1 full unit. Jeff, you've got a parlay yourself.
Yeah, I was going to, I watched how you guys played, the last time, and I thought, man, I'm going to do the same thing this time. I'm just going to pick one and play it safe. I'm gonna chip away at it over the year, over the whatever quarter, and play the Tim route, and then just that shit in me that happens even on my regular bets where I just go balls deep in a bet and have a 9-person parlay. I don't have it in me not to go for something. So I'm taking Royval as well, like Torres did. I've been impressed with this kid ever since he came over, and I think his hot streak will continue. But I am going to add to this parlay over 2.5 on the main event, and not that I have a lot to go on off of, other than I just want this to be such a good fight. It's a 5-round fight. I feel it in my bones that we're going to see the halfway point. Both these guys are studs right now, and I think on either side, it's just going to be hard to get the other one out unless just something crazy happens. Someone gets clipped. But I see both these guys as being very durable guys, and I just feel in my bones that we're going to see that halfway point. I don't think it'll go the distance, but I feel like we'll see the halfway point. And again, because I'm greedy and I just want to make something out of nothing. And if I get this, I will win the week.
Hey, that's true. You will win 1.52 units if this parlay hits, which will give you the lead. I will play like I typically play. I am going to go with Vyacheslav Borshev minus 190 over Dakota Bush. Just that. That's it. Minus 190 will win me 0.53 units. Borshev is he's the striking coach at Team Alpha Male. I've seen him really put the hurt on some guys on his come up through contender and things like that. He's an awesome striker with a lot of power. And then, Dakota Bush can wrestle, but you figure Borshev is in the gym at Alpha Male where he's a striking coach, where he's probably getting wrestling against much better wrestlers than Dakota Bush. So I'm going to go with Borshev minus 190 is my only play and more or less hoping all you fools lose on yours, and that will put me in the lead. I actually do like Jeff's. I think I fade Justin though. I'm not real big on Chase Sherman. He just lost in a bare knuckle fight to Joey Beltran, which wasn't a good look to me. And Collier's a guy that is slept on quite a bit, so I'll probably lean that way. But who knows? I've been wrong before. Been wrong many times actually. So that's our picks. Well, one thing we do know is that none of us will be any lower than Greg Hopkins, and that works for me. Let's see, guys. That's about it to wrap up. Jeff, we want to give a shout out there to
yes,
Kerry Reed.
Absolutely, guys. Kerry Reed, who competed last Friday night, and just a tough battle, hard-nosed fight with Harrison Raymond, like we discussed it in our breakdown. Still feeling some effects from that knockout, so we definitely want to give a shout out, but more so just a get well, Kerry. Everybody's thinking about you, checking in on you. It was a hell of a fight. And everybody's worried about you, and we're checking in on you. A lot of people checking in on you. So definitely get well soon, Kerry.
No doubt, Kerry. We're all thinking about you out there. Hopefully, your condition improves here, and we'll all be sending you positive vibes for a quick recovery out there. It's a scary thing, man. This is it's one of those things that reminds you that it's a dangerous game. It really is, and these guys that belittle anyone that gets in there and puts it on the line. Hopefully, they kind of see. That was one thing that kind of stood out to me after that Drayon Martin and Pat Crumpton fight. There's a guy talking shit at the rail at Drayon Martin, which raised the ire of Pat's manager, Ben Sargent. But man, Ben said the right thing to this guy. It's like, hey man, this guy's in here doing it. He's putting it on the line for your fucking entertainment. So to belittle these guys is way out of line.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode, guys. We'll be back next week. We start the trek towards February 4th, Aries 4 coming up from the Cotton Eye Joe. We got 3 big title fights. We're going to have a lot of interviews on tap for y'all. I believe we've got Zane Burton booked next week. So we'll be talking to Zane and lots more. That's going to be a really fun card to break down. For now, if COVID doesn't strike us, sitting pretty stacked at like 16 fights right now. We'll see if we can hold them, but a lot of really fun ones up and down that card. I'm excited to get into it. We will do that next week. For now, one more time, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and keep up with when we post content here on the 0 Hour. And for Justin Watson and Jeff Hobbs, I'm Tim Lloyd. We are signing off for another week. Thanks for spending your time with us out there. We appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.
Yep. See you guys.